Nun Hor Zujing Narnung. Let's start healing. Hi, everyone. I'm Adrianne Murchison, and welcome to episode 31 of the Let's Start Healing podcast. I just greeted you with Nun Hor Zujing Narnung, which is Shanganese. I said, hello, what's up with you lately? Yes, you know what we say. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. That's why I greet you with a different language for every episode. Before we get started with our fabulous episode today, I want to let you know that you can listen to all of our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and our podcast YouTube channel. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram and also like us on Facebook. And you can, of course, send me that email at letstarthealingpodcast@gmail.com. This episode is brought to you in part by Denver-based Diamond Light Images Photography. Traveling photographer Justin Murchison specializes in a variety of works, from scenic landscapes to weddings, graduations, and other events. Diamond Light Images captures the gemstones of every memory, experience, and occasion. You can reach Diamond Light Images at 757-650-3334 or follow on Instagram at Diamond Light Images. This episode is also brought to you in part by Nicole Gabrielle Skincare and Cosmetics for today's lifestyle. Forward-thinking founder Nicole Gabrielle has been licensed in the aesthetics industry for more than 20 years and provides her high-quality cosmetic and skincare line with every type of face, lip, cheek, and body in mind. Nicole Gabrielle Skincare and Cosmetics are created especially for you. Products are available online at NicoleGabrielle.com. That's spelled NicoleGabrielle.com. Also, follow on Facebook and Instagram at Nicole Gabrielle Skincare. I am really proud and honored to bring you our guest today because I believe so much in what this doctor is doing. His name is Dr. Mark Armstrong. He is the founder of Ahimki Center for Wholeness in Roswell, Georgia. And the Ahimki Center is about healing in a holistic way through ancient practices as well as modern techniques. And I encourage you and urge you to go to the Ahimki Center website, which is ahimki.net. Dr. Armstrong, Dr. Mark is how he is known. He has so much that he is doing at the Ahimki Center that I cannot begin to capture it all in a brief description. So please, by all means, go to his website. We are going to touch on many, many nuggets in our conversation today. In the background, you'll hear probably a little music because we were talking at the Ahimki Center. If you are at all interested in the mind, body, spirit connection, then you want to hear this conversation. So many people are aware of a book by the late wonderful Louise Hay called Heal Your Body. And it's a very small paperback book that's like a Bible to so many. You can look up a body part. You can look up an ailment that you're having. Maybe there's something going on with your gallstones, or maybe there's something going on with your heart or your thyroid. And there will be a couple of lines about what that represents and also a healing thought. So if you're having a problem in that particular area, it will mention what that particular body part represents and then a healing thought around it. For instance, if you're having a back ailment, the back represents, according to this book, the support of life. So a healing thought around a back issue is, I know that life supports me. Lower back problems can represent fear of money, lack of financial support. A healing thought can be, I trust the process of life. All I need is always taken care of. I am safe. And so these healing thoughts we can meditate on, and they can help us to heal. And so Dr. Mark and I did not talk about this book, but we talked about these concepts, which are a part of his work. He'll talk about how he was able to overcome asthma as a child. And a big help was some healing remedies through a book that his grandfather had called Return to Eden by Jethro Kloss. And I looked the book up on Amazon just because I think you would find this so interesting. I got the name wrong. It's Back to Eden. It's Back to Eden, the classic guide to herbal medicine, natural foods, and home remedies since 1939. This book on Amazon is $149. Dr. Mark has a Qigong class that we will talk about that is really amazing, and it's on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. If you go to his website, the website will say that the center is only open every other Saturday. This class takes place every Saturday. So give them a call, and they will let you know more about this class. But there's so much that I'm excited about because I have experienced healing firsthand just on attending the Qigong classes on Saturday morning. There are two guests that we have had on Let's Start Healing podcast who have been students of Dr. Mark. That's Jazz Jones, who was on our last episode, as well as others. Jazz was on episode 30 and episode number 3, as well as another episode in September. And then Kevin Coe is also a student of Dr. Mark, and he's an energy healer also, as well as Jazz. He was on episode 27. So their names will come up in this conversation. And I'm just excited for you to get to listen to Dr. Mark Armstrong. So let's meet him. Let's get started, and let's start healing. Welcome, Dr. Mark.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
This is a real honor and a wonderful opportunity to talk to you. And I think the first question I want to ask you is, how would you describe all of what you do? How do you encompass all of what you do, as well as your education and training?
Mm-hmm. I like to think of myself as a metaphysician, like Yeshua, the Christ, that there's a physical body, there's a physical world, there's a spiritual world, and I work in the gap. I work between the spirit and the physical realm, because all there is God. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a naturopathic doctor, trained in naturopathic medicine, and an acupuncturist. And so I see the body in terms of systems like Qi. Every organ has emotions. For example, the liver is anger, and the lungs are grief, and stomach is indecision, and spleen represents decision making. So I think of the body like that when I work with someone, and my goal is to try to help them make balance. And balance is always going to come in their divinity that they hold with all of life.
Wow. So the liver, anger. Mm-hmm. So when is anger the energy that might be stored in the liver?
Exactly. The liver is going to open to the eyes, and that's the orifice that we see out of, and the orifice that everything is recorded. The eyes are like a camera and a lens. So memories get stuck in the eyes, in the brain, it gets stuck in the neural system, and it's going to be housed in your liver. Mm-hmm. And so liver yang rising, deep-seated grief and anger eating you up is what they call cancer.
Absolutely. Now, how does that relate to the chakras?
Well, chakras are their own subsystems, but the chakras spin in relationships to the glands of the body. So next to the third chakra is liver, gallbladder, stomach, spleen. Mm-hmm. So there's, through the nadis, a great connection to the organs and the emotions and the thoughts and feelings. Third chakra would be the solar plex.
The solar plex, okay.
Yeah, the root would be the navel chakra.
Okay.
Second would be the belly. And third would be the solar plex. That's liver, gallbladder, stomach, and spleen.
Oh, my.
So if there's an imbalance in liver energy, yes, that's going to throw the third chakra off. So feeling a sense of trust is not going to be there.
So I'm looking at energy medicine on your the scrubs that you have on.
Yes.
So what are your clients? I know you must do a variety of different things with your clients.
The flow generally looks like this. People fill out an assessment of, like any office that you would go to, what is your chief complaint? And immediately when I see that, I think, what's going on physically, what's going on mentally and emotionally? And how do we interpret what they're saying to get them aligned with their divinity? That's what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. But they're not coming for that. They're coming because I have this headache, or the doctor says I have Crohn's disease, or my arthritis is bothering me. But the conversation that I'm really having is between them and angels and God.
Right, right. And so then I know it can vary depending on who you're talking to and the circumstance and how they respond. What might be the approach that you might take with someone based on how they respond?
Well, depending on their consciousness, like, it takes a while to sort of discern in just a few moments if they are religious. Because if they're religious, then they may not find comfort in knowing about the chakras. That's Eastern, and so they may not make the connection. So I'll stay with them on just the physical level and what they know, but then guide them over time to read and become more aware of the subtle energies of what these systems are saying. Mm-hmm. They don't know what third chakra is, but they know their imbalances. Mm-hmm. So I'll just stay on the imbalances. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're having upset stomach, you're having challenges with over acidic. Okay, so let's look at that. So that's the way I'll deal with the third chakra without talking about it.
Okay.
What makes you upset? What is it in your life you're not able to digest? Mm-hmm. And then I'll just stay on that vein until we get there together. Now,
I have a few friends who are clients of yours, and they have mentioned this machine. I think it's a machine.
Yes, it's. I have several machines, but probably it's called Ondamed, mm-hmm. Ondamed, and this is German technology. Ondamed computer is like Watson's IBM. It can think like 10 doctors. So having this machine gives an opportunity to take a look at nutritional imbalances, if they're missing B6, B12, folic acid, if they're missing zinc. So that machine will tell me if they have adrenal deficiencies. Also, if they have any pathogens, any virus, any fungus, any bacteria, any parasites. All that can be determined from the technology of the Ondamed, as well as if there's any imbalances in their neurophysiology, if they have problems with neurotransmitters, GABA, dopamine, serotonin, or if they can't sleep. Mm-hmm. With that technology, I can find out the why.
I thought you were going to say the what, but you said the why.
Yeah, I'm interested in why.
Oh, you're saying that it'll tell you the what, but then you'll be able to find out the why in your work.
More importantly, I've been a healer since 1982. And how I got started is I was sick as a kid, and my grandfather actually put me on track with a book called Return to Eden by Jethro Kloss.
Mm-hmm.
This book really changed my life because I had asthma as a kid. And at 12 years old, I was very, very sick, going to emergency room pretty much every night because I just couldn't breathe.
Mm-hmm.
But my grandfather had some remedies that really caught my attention. So from that point on, we became BFAs, best friends.
Was this book about remedies?
It was all about remedies.
Mm-hmm.
So he would use remedies like Vicks Vapor rub on your shoulders with hot towels and heating pads. That was incredible therapy for me. Nobody had ever touched me in the hospital other than to take blood or, give me a breathing treatment. But to physically touch and rub and get me in touch with what I could do to stop being sick meant a lot to me because I was all for being better.
Mm-hmm.
And that put me on track.
That helped your asthma.
I got rid of asthma.
Wow.
Yeah. I had asthma as 12. By the time I was, 12 and a half, I hadn't had an attack since.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. So the on-demand
Yes.
machine, are they putting their finger in something, or are they having, is it like
yes,
wires and patches?
It's a little different than that. Zyto is probably the machine most people will know. It's a cradle you rest your hands on, and it picks up transmission from the nerve endings in your hand. But on-demand is a frequency generator. It's known as a Rife machine.
Rife? What is that?
Well,
What is Rife?
Royal Raymond Rife lived in the 1920s, and he actually spent a lot of research and time finding out what frequencies clear pathogens in the body and what organs vibrate at what frequency. Everything in the universe ties back to God.
Right.
It is a vibration of sound. And on-demand is using sound and frequencies to resonate with the organs that transmit a sound and a vibration. When it's a match, like the matching game, then the body heals very quick. It's only when we're not in harmony, when we're out of sync, and we can't get the signal because we have imbalances or stress or toxins, then we can really get signals switched off and we will stay in patterns of disease. But when the signal is WWGOD and you tune your radio to that station, you'll hear.
By different practices or by doing what?
Sometimes it's very simple, Adrianne, getting the body to align to wellness, then good can flow. Being aligned to a purpose or a vision or a cause or a why, energy will flow from source. So whenever someone slows down or allows that process to take place, then healing can occur.
Right.
It's just that simple.
Right.
Sometimes it's getting people out of woundology, a victim type of thought form, or a state of consciousness that is unworthy of healing. No one loves me. I can't contribute to the world. Feel like I'm a waste of time. This lowers your vibration to 20 in the map of consciousness, because then you got grief or shame or guilt. Our goal is to raise the vibration so that we can get into neutrality, and in neutrality, everything can happen.
So, if once you know what is the cause, what the condition is, and what the cause is, what are some of the modalities or treatments that you might?
One could be like chakras. For some people, it's a physical experience they have. They can see the gate is closed or realize through their condition that something's not flowing. Let's say money. Let's say someone is really efforting a lot, but they just can't turn the corner on that conversation. That could be a second and a first chakra issue. So talking about vibrational healing and vibrational matches and being connected to source energy and what modalities do I work with? Yes. So, yes, I could use the chakra system. I could use a system in TCM called Touch for Health. Right behind you, in the Touch for Health chart on the wall, you'll see that every 2 hours, energy is flowing through the body, through a mansion that has 12 rooms in it. And what I'm looking for is neurovascular points. I'm looking for muscles. I'm looking through kinesiology to see how on the chart you lined up with being at peak level.
So I'm looking at a chart, and it says liver 1 to 3 a.m., circulation sex to 9 p.m., small intestines 1 to 3 p.m. What does that mean?
It means every 2 hours, energy is flowing through the body. And people oftentimes have experiences where I can't get up in the morning, I'm tired and I'm fatigued. Well, then I would know that that's earth time. So that's stomach, spleen, and pancreas. I would go to those systems, stomach, spleen, and pancreas, and I would turn on the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And jet lag could affect them too if they travel and they're in different time zones. So I would go to that system and simply boot it up. And then that day, or from that point on, energy would flow if there was no disruption.
How important is it to get up and move during the day? And I'm asking because I work from home and I'm on the computer, and often I will not get up for hours. Even though I think, oh, I should get up and I should move around, and I don't. Is that, how important is that to just get up? And if I do get up, then I feel a shift
Yes.
in energy. How important is that?
It's very important that you allow your body to go through its rhythm. And the rhythm is we are physical beings having a spiritual experience. So movement, stretching, getting good air and good water, and just having some sense of flexibility will help you and support your body in staying awake and functioning at a higher level. So I would say every hour, try to move at least 15 minutes in that hour.
No kidding.
Yeah, if you could.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called breaks at work. If you worked in corporate America, they would give you breaks. They would tell you, okay, you can go on break.
So you have these Saturday morning Qigong classes. Would you talk about those classes? And I've attended them and find them to be really powerful.
Yeah, we've always enjoyed when you come. The Qigong, Qi is energy and Gong is movement. So in order to help my clients align themselves, we provide this training class. I first made it mandatory if you want to be my client, you have to come to a class. And the classes were at 7 p.m. and at 5 and at 8 in the morning. And 8 in the morning was the least favorite. But the ones that were devoted always came to the 8 o'clock Saturday class. And I made the time a little longer. So instead of being a 30-minute class, I made it an hour and a half. And that way we can really help them get rid of some of the blockages in their body through moving through these static
Absolutely.
and stretching and yoga type postures.
And I've attended maybe 3 or 4, and each one is different.
Yes.
Each class is different. And I remember one where we partnered up and we were on a massage table.
Yes.
And we were feeling each other's energy.
Yes.
That was so powerful. It's always powerful, but that was really something.
I like for the experience to be something you can take away. I like on-demand because it's not just an etheric thing. Qi can be explained. It can be measured.
How do you define Qi? Is it energy?
Qi is life force, is energy. It's basically sound, vibration, and thought. But Qi flows through blood. Qi flows through bones, bone marrow. And Qi is the food you eat, the air you breathe, and the thoughts you think. along with light and sound.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically everything, and in everyone, and every culture knows about this thing called chi. The Indians would call it prana, pranayama, breathing. The Japanese call it ki, Ki. Yes. When I was in Hawaii, they call it mana. They saw me doing Tai Chi, and they said, "Oh, you have good mana." Manna. And I said, "Oh, like manna from heaven."
Right. I was about to ask you that.
They said, "Yes, like manna from heaven. It's energy."
Wow.
That comes from heaven.
And sometimes during your classes, there'll be some outside activity.
Yes.
And the participants may hug a tree and feel the energy from a tree.
Yes. I like the experiential because then the feedback is I'm not here alone in my experience. The chi is God, it's life force. So when you are not touching the tree, but hands about 2 inches and going down, you feel a connection that's not just magnetic, it is chi. And you can use that chi to heal yourself. The Qigong masters, which I happen to be one, we can emit the chi into, say, a needle or a person's body or into a chakra. And you know Kevin, he's one of my great students. He has great chi, and he can do this energy work with his hands and emit the chi. And that's, some people would call it Reiki. But Qigong masters would call it Qigong.
I just lost my train of thought.
It will come back to you.
Since you brought Kevin up, like yourself, I find such a power of God within him. And I think God is in all of us. That's something that I do know, that God is in all of us. But I'm just blown away by him because I connect with that God in him. Do you, since he's a student of yours, can you share that?
Well, it's resonant that we all have based upon karma. We have a lot of karma with lots of different people. And for some people, they have more like a resonance. It's like joining a group. Why would you join a group that you don't like, or you have some mirroring effect?
Right.
And the mirror is what we see when we don't like something. We see that in ourselves. So sometimes we can see things that we like and we go, right, there's no contrast there. So I feel more tuned to that energy. Yeah.
So can we talk about your journey? You mentioned having asthma, and that triggered, well, the book that your grandfather introduced to you and what you learned triggered the interest. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Once I got that book, Return to Eden, I'm like 12 years old, so I'm looking up things for people in our church. They're all, they're all my elders, and they have arthritis, and I am trying to belong in the space that Granddad opened up. So I would look up an herb, alfalfa root, and I would just say alfalfa or something like turmeric, and people would go, "Yeah, I heard of that," or turpentine.
Right.
And, "Yeah, I heard of that. What do you know about that?" And then I would say what I knew. And that just fostered more and more relationships and helping people. I took that book to college, and people would come in, "Well, I'm having these cramps." And I would go, "Oh, okay, let me look up and see what herb would be good for that," or evening primrose oil. And so they would say, "Can you get me some?" I actually had like a little doctor's office in my dorm. People would line up and say, "What can I take?" And then I would just write it down or go to the health food store and get it.
Where did you go to college?
University of California, Santa Barbara.
You're a California native?
I am from California.
So tie that into God. I know it's all connected, but God is very much an element of your work.
Yes. Yeah, God is the work. I mean, really what I tell people, I don't work for them, I work for God. And the name Ahimki, ahimsa is the sacredness of all things. And then ki is the universal energy. So ahimki. That's what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do. But if you put that out to some people that have religious beliefs,
Right.
then they would be in conflict with that because that's not their training. And yet, some of the greatest ministers in the state of Georgia come to me.
Were you in a traditional church growing up?
Baptist church. Baptist was a great training because I got to learn to do public speaking and, just a lot of good things came out of the church. As I kept growing, my aunt was metaphysical.
Okay.
So we would go to Lessons of Truth, Emily Cady Hopkins workshops, and the Brooks sisters. These are people of color that were doing classes like Marion Williams. My aunt was really into that. So I learned a lot of metaphysical things from her, like being on a table and having someone just heal you doing affirmations was powerful.
Oh my.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Everyone is a link in my chain of success. The good that I'm seeking is seeking me. Just picture affirmations about money, treatments for money, treatments for disease. They had treatments based upon every single disease you have. And that's what I learned from being around the metaphysical people. Now, I add that in my practice. It's called tapping, but I give them.
Oh, I've heard that word before.
EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. Before it became EFT, it was called Field Thought Therapy. And then I progressed into bars, Access Consciousness. And Jazz is one of my students, and Kevin is one of my students.
I was just thinking about Jazz Jones, who's been on this podcast.
Yes.
And she did introduce bars and tapping to me. Can you describe them in a little more detail?
Well, Access Consciousness bars there are acupressure points around the head, and holding these points and doing energy pulls, you can get rid of programming that is stuck in your neural consciousness. There's parts of the brain, for example, that are allowing us to loop in patterns that are oftentimes not wanted, but we can't get out of that pattern until you clear the bars, these parts of the head that hold it. And there's statements, clearing statements that we have the clients make, like, how does it get any better than this? You probably heard Jazz and Kevin say that. And so you're moving the energy so that the brain can clear, so that the field can clear. Yeah, and EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, is known as tapping. And there are basically points on the head, everywhere on the body that you can tap to get rid of the stress inside the meridians, which hold the memory of the organs, which hold the memory of emotions.
Wow. So when you were growing up and you were discovering these different things, even through your education, I might, if that was my journey, I might find it connected to the earth. I don't know if I would connect it to God. I mean, did you connect everything to God right away?
Actually, I didn't. But from 12 on, I kept going back to see my grandfather in Birmingham. And he was a farmer out in nature. So the Almanac was a book that he read, and he planted and did his whole life as if that's like astrology, but it's God. So I learned from him what wood is, what wood element is, and how important wood is. Wood is very important.
Because?
Wood is your joints, your flexibility. Wood is your tendons, your ligaments. Wood is your liver, gallbladder. And wood houses anger.
So the piece of wood
means a lot.
A piece of wood, meaning that wood symbolizes what's in our body.
Exactly.
Okay.
Wood is the archetype for what is in our body, and also like a bamboo, it needs to be flexible. So when wood imbalances exist, a person is not flexible. They can't give. They want to be right all the time.
Exactly.
And very dogmatic in some ways. And kidney is water, so when that's balanced, things flow. and you're in the flow of life.
Mm-hmm. I was on your website, and you studied. You have a Bachelor of Science in Ergonomic Health Studies.
Yes.
And what is that?
Well, ergonomics, University of California, Santa Barbara, ergonomics it basically includes how things move in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Ergonomics is being very efficient in movement. So how are things moving in the body? What's the function of muscles? What's the function of bones? What's the function of glands and hormones? How do they all connect and interconnect? That's the science of ergonomics.
Mm-hmm.
Flow,
which ties right into your work.
To the eastern, to the western.
What is polarity therapy?
Polarity therapy is like polarity of how things flow from positive to negative. Polarity therapy is like touching one point that's very, very sore, finding the contrasting point on the other side of the body and releasing the tension. Like electricity, it has to flow on both sides. When there's an imbalance, one side's going to hurt. So as a polarity therapist, I learned that if a person says, my shoulder hurts on the right side all the time, and I see them wrenching and grabbing and supporting the right, then I think that right side is excess, too much inflammation. I'm going to go to the left side where it doesn't hurt and hold that really forcefully to release the shoulder pain on the right side.
I see.
That's polarity therapy. And there's a pattern that you do that. It's basically maybe 36 points, and you can free up pain anywhere in the body.
Balance is just so essential.
It is.
Isn't it?
Yeah, one muscle could be tight, one side could be, trauma, and then the other side eventually wears out too.
How important is breathing? Deep breaths.
Breathing is the chi, it's the prana, and breathing correctly can really heal anything.
You know what I discovered? I wasn't thinking about this when I just asked this question. In one of your classes, for one thing, I'm always told by my friends who are in wellness to take deep breaths, breathe, because I tend to have shallow breaths. But I remember doing an exercise where we had partners, we were lying on the massage table, and we were taking very short, I don't know if short's the right word. We weren't breathing often.
Right.
And I was amazed at how I didn't need to breathe.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Yes. As we fill up with oxygen in the body, then the cells fill up with oxygen. And that's a healing technique in Qigong to actually heal your body from stress and toxins in the organs.
And so remind me what we did, because that was a while ago.
Yes. So we actually placed you on the table or a partner on the table, and we had them breathe. And as they were breathing, we were all breathing with them. And once we got to like the 9th breath, we asked you to hold.
Right.
And in your holding, you filled up the mitochondria, the powerhouse of your cells, with energy from breath, which is God, prana, chi. And you held that because it's divine energy for much longer than you could have if you weren't thinking or having a divine experience.
That's it. That happened. That absolutely happened. Also, I was connected to the people around me.
Yes.
Like there was a oneness,
There's
right?
a oneness. The field is called the morphogenetic field. So you were on the table receiving, or they were on the table receiving, and people were around you breathing too. So it amplifies the power times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus you, the breather, and the guides in the room. That's why it's so powerful.
My goodness. Wow. And what about, we talked about this offline, soul constellations. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, soul constellation, thank you for asking. Soul constellation is very ancient and old. It actually comes from the Zulu nation. And the record keeper is still alive. I think he's like 112 years old. Creto Mutwa, who's still here. He taught Bert Hellinger, the soul constellation work, and now Bert Hellinger has actually brought that to United States and Europe and in Germany. They use it a lot in Germany to heal a lot of the Holocaust patients and clients and members that are still connected to that pain that took place in Germany. So we use the soul constellation to create orders of love and to actually create energy flows in our family. When there's entanglements and when orders of love are out of line, like, for example, hidden loyalties, they exist where people will take sides, sort of like the Hatfields and the McCoys, and they're intermarry, and then they have these loyalties to their family and not to their true selves. Then entanglement will cause disease, will cause financial problems, will cause health issues.
So in a class, there might be people participating who have unfinished relationships or unfinished business with people who have passed on. And so they can work that out through soul constellations.
Or, yes, they can work it out in terms of the journey of the soul. Sometimes diseases that we have in this dimension are upstream. Like, for example, diabetes could be 4 or 5 generations. Arthritis could be 5, 6 generations. Well, then you can gain insight through the soul constellation to overcome that through the journey of the soul.
How so?
There's pictures and snapshots when a person's in constellation that will show you how they get sick and will show you how to heal. And if you watch it very carefully, even though you are observing, there's a healing for you. That healing goes 9 generations in the past and 9 into the future. But some people really get a little too close too soon. Material comes up. And if they're willing to stay in the constellation, it can be resolved pretty quickly. So the healing in their bodies can be quantum.
Wow. And what was powerful when I attended the class was there was someone who wanted to connect. If I'm saying this, I don't know if I'm using the right words or language, but they wanted to connect and heal or resolve a relationship with someone who was gone. And maybe they wanted answers. And so that person would say, if I remember, they would give us the dynamics, and then the other people, there might be 3 or 4 people who might represent different members of the family. And then just based on the little bit of information, there would be a dialogue. And the person whose experience is being played out, they're just observing, right?
Exactly.
But what got me was the dialogue, because I didn't know, I don't know how it was for everyone else, but I didn't know the person whose experience was being played out. And the dialogue was always it would bring up information.
Yes.
Like I might say something that just came to me, and it would bring up information for that person.
Exactly. Because we're all interconnected to source. And source energy is always assisting us to help us finish the unfinished business.
And speaking of that, something that I do, and I know, well, actually, I think we did it here too, but I've done it outside of here, and I have friends who've done it through you, is eye gazing.
Yes.
And that is, will you please speak about that? That is that is so real. I mean, that's proof of God to me.
Yes. We call it be with exercise. So when you're with someone, the eyes are the windows to the soul. And when you're really, really, really present, besides seeing the mirror, you can actually see the light shine through. And that is quite an experience. It's one that will connect you very deeply and sincerely. And it's one that will heal you.
I have a friend that I joke with she's a Thai yoga practitioner, and so she's had me lead some eye gazing and some group sessions. And one time we were partnering up to eye gaze, and she was just not willing.
Yes.
And we laugh about it, but it really got me how you have to be willing to be available.
Yes, to receive.
Yeah.
This is how the universe really works. WWGOD is always sending out, but are you allowing yourself to receive?
Yeah.
And behind the veil, it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to look. They think it's staring in the other person's eyes. But really what comes up is your inner thoughts about you.
Well, so I have done that exercise with people where I had a friend and we would do it. We would take turns. I would receive and she would give me love. And then she would receive and I would give her love. I'm receiving love from her. She looked angelic. She almost became obscured because it was sort of like a white cloud started like covering her, and she just looked so angelic. And then when I gave love to her, completely different image. You know, just a very hard image would come up. She was real resistant. I've had that experience with other people too, and I'll say this is what was coming up for me, and they always affirm what I say was coming up. But it's so interesting how there's a different image between giving love
and receiving. It could be possible that some people are really good at giving and not so great at receiving.
Right.
Yeah. And when you take away their wall, then they get to be transparent in their insecurities or their strengths.
What is the difference between frequency and energy?
Yes. Well, frequency is how fast something is undulating.
Does that mean moving?
Yeah, moving, yes. So the frequency is the pace and the speed of which it's moving.
Okay.
Like a wave.
Okay.
Right? And energy is also in wave form too. And so it could be linear and without walls at the same time. That's how distance healing can take place. So you can be here and someone can be in Timbuktu and you can actually have an image of them and heal them without being present. Because you can send the thought in terms of a waveform to impact them if you can hold the right signal, hold the right frequency in your mind.
Is energy, does that equate with a signal? Or what? I understand what you just said, and I'm still trying to define. Like, I know what energy is, but when I think of it compared to frequency.
Yes. Well, you might remember when we were outdoors in the trees, we're actually tapping into a magnetic energy field, but also a resonance called wood that is living and breathing. The wood that you were tapping into has a root system. That one tree is communicating through its roots with this whole entire park. And so all the trees are experiencing what we're doing and giving back.
Is energy the resonance that you just met? That's what the energy is.
Yes.
And then the frequency is the speed.
Yes, you can think of it like that.
Okay. Well, so I have a few healing questions that I'd like to ask guests on Let's Start Healing.
Okay.
So thank you. So how would you describe your knowing or perception of God?
I think I would say my knowing and perception of God is in trust. It's in the trust of nature. It's in trust of life. It's in the trust of my experience that I've had in life. And so I can look out and see this was a very beautiful day. and I can see the trees are beginning to turn, and I can go, that's God in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And there's trust in that I know it's going to be dark and the sun will come up and it will rain and it will be liquid sunshine, and that all is well in the universe. That is how I know God.
Mm-hmm. Has there ever been a period in your life where there was doubt around the things that you just described?
Yes. I mean, when I was sick and, trying and seeing my parents totally exhausted, because it's not easy to, have a sick child. It drains you mentally and emotionally.
Right.
But at that moment, I was thinking maybe it would be better just to give them a break. They wouldn't have to deal with all this. And if God was really real, then maybe that's what he had in plan.
Meaning that your asthma was that severe that you could have possibly lost your life.
Oh, sure. Many times I couldn't breathe and had to have a EpiPen, and it was really kind of crazy for that time period. Then it would have been easier, but then I started thinking maybe there's something, hope in Granddad, that maybe he can give me some help, some medicine or something natural, or put me in touch with something that could help me, and he did, which was nature,
Right.
roots.
Right.
Roots. I mean, something as simple as
Meaning the roots of the earth.
of the earth, yeah. I mean, something really simple as mullein tea. Mullein tea, get a load of that. And fenugreek and thyme stopped asthma.
No kidding.
I mean, 3 herbs that were growing right there in the garden, or, in this backyard, which is on a farm. So peppermint tea, simple things like that provided a lot of relief. Cough syrup, elderberry that he made. Elderberry
Oh my goodness.
tonic to drink, got rid of the phlegm, and then give up the cheeseburgers, the hamburgers.
Right.
No milk. I was good. We're not eating wheat because you have an allergy to wheat. Nature, right? Elderberry, right there. Simple.
My gosh. When do you most feel the Spirit of God?
I think I feel the Spirit of God in everything I do once I get to the clinic, because I always start with lighting an incense, and I have a gong there, and I have tuning forks. So once I welcome the day, I've already prayed before I got here, but when I step in, those are the ritual things. And as you can see on the wall are these wonderful symbols. So I like to honor God in the Tao and in me. Then I feel it. It just, my hands heat up and it's on.
How important is meditation, and what can a person do what steps can they take to heal themselves?
Well, let's start with your first one. Meditation, training the mind to be still. I think meditation is when we hear from God. Prayer is when we speak to God. But meditation, that stillness, then God can speak to you.
Right.
So I like meditation, and I try to give in every session that I have with people time when they can be still so that they can heal.
What do you think God calls you to do for yourself and for others through your work?
I practice Qigong now every day. I was consciously building it up to do an 1.5-hour session for the week. But recently I started doing it every day, and I've noticed I dropped 10 pounds doing it every day.
No kidding.
So the Qi can help you heal, which is something I knew. But now that I practice it every day, I realize it, because it's just, it's like a pound coming off a day. Just
is
Qi.
it if someone isn't familiar with Qigong, would you say that it's movement with the flow of God?
Because of the connotation of God, I wouldn't say that.
Divine power.
Yeah, the Qi
higher
flows
being.
anyway because it's just part of the air that we breathe and the food that we eat. But once you tap into the signal consciously, it flows a little better. You have more awareness, like when you felt the tree.
Right.
The goal is it flows anyway, but are you present to it?
Right.
And sometimes if you put a barrier, if God represents a parent that's angry, you're not going to want to have that parent around you much and comforting you much. And some people hold God like that.
We actually had a previous podcast where that came up, and I've been using the word. I'm very aware that not everyone uses that word for their higher power.
Yes.
Do you use that word? I've been using it.
Yes, I like source, I like flow, and definitely love God. So depending on where I'm at or how I feel, it's a God thing, you know. I'm okay, and I hope people are okay with it. But I don't want to exclude people, because we have Muslims, we have Jehovah Witness, we have Seventh-day Adventists. And for my Jehovah Witness brothers, it's going to be Jehovah. And if you say God, then they're going to say that's not his name. And then you go, I don't do tennis over the divine.
Right.
I know where they're coming from, and I'm comfortable where I'm at.
Right. And that's the way we are here with
Yes.
this podcast.
Yes.
So tell me about a time, if you're willing to, when you, beyond the asthma, when you were a child, when you had a miracle or a blessing and you said, that was God, that was source, that was flow, totally did this. I had nothing to do with it.
Adrianne, every day I have miracles like that. And there are obviously really, really spectacular moments that are hallmarks. I was 23 years old and I bought a house on the beach in Santa Barbara. That was God. That was a miracle. Because one of my mentors told me to go to a Fannie Lou Hamer first-time home buyers. And he was a mentor, and I said, I'm going to go because you're a mentor. I had no idea I can own a house on the beach. And within 2 months, I got the keys to this house. I'm renting it out to this day. That's a God thing.
Right.
The other day, I was at a gas station. There was a lady that looked like she was a little bit lost. And I just greeted her and helped her out. And that was a God thing. She was like, "Who are you?" And I told her who I was. She asked for a card, and she came to see me today. That's a God thing. That's a God thing.
It is. It is.
I mean, I'm not looking for it. It just flows.
Obviously, you're a healer. Does your work call you to be a seeker too? Are you a seeker by nature?
I am. I think all of us are on a journey here of discovery. And I like to think about Earth School like heaven. We're going to be partnered with communities and friends that we like. And the ones that we resonate with will be like family. So I have lots of families here. You know, I've got the Dow family, I have the Christian family, I have the Seventh-day Adventist family. I have all these Sukha Marikari families, all these families metaphysical family that I belong to. And I feel comfortable in them all.
On your website, I think I saw mind management.
Yes.
And so I was curious before we close what that is and then how you perceive. I instantly thought of the world today and trying to navigate the human world that we walk through. And I just wanted to know how you perceive that and what is mind management within your work?
Oh, I know that we're really good at managing and using our cell phones, our iPhones. So we know how to Google, we know how to send a text, we know how to look up, we know how to tweet, we know how to Instagram. But can you help your mind, or can your mind help you go to sleep at night? Can you use your mind to control your excessive thinking or your impulse or your addictions? That's mind management, teaching you how to use much more of your brain, your conscious and your subconscious mind, so that you can program that like you do your phone to get up in the morning and to tell you what day it is and when you have meetings. Mind management is my way of offering to the world a way to manage their own brains, their mind. And when I first started that 10 years ago, I offered it to my clients, and I had 42 people coming Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday to do it.
Wow.
And it really worked because they got it. And then I added that to the Qigong in the morning, so there's always a little part of that.
What's the practice look like? What is
that?
That?
The mind management practices, we're learning about parts of the brain, and we're learning breathing techniques, and we're learning how to connect to the relay switches to control those things.
There just must be phenomenal changes in some of your clients.
Oh, definitely. We have folks that we don't heal cancer or any disease. I'm not a medical doctor, and all of those diseases they have a patent on that. So as a naturopath, that's outside of my scope. But we have people that have those illusions, and they've overcome it. Stages gone. Because if you can manage your mind, if you can raise your vibration of thoughts,
right?
If you can eat the right frequencies in food, and if you can rest, and you can poop, and you can connect to sources, nothing you can't be, do, know, or have.
Thank you so much for doing
You're
this.
welcome.
This is amazing. Thank you for what you do.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Contact the Ahimki Center at 770-552-4242. Also, visit the Ahimki website at ahimki.net. Also, you can email Dr. Mark Armstrong at mark.armstrong@ahimki.net. The Ahimki Center for Wholeness is located in Roswell, Georgia. Thank you for joining us. Listen to all of our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and our podcast YouTube channel. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and send me that email at letstarthealingpodcast@gmail.com. Let's start healing.